You're listening to Coupled With, the podcast that helps you take the guesswork out of feeling seen, heard, and valued in your relationship. If you've ever felt stuck in the same arguments, struggled to stay connected, or wondered how to better communicate with your partner, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Rachel Orlick, a couples therapist and coach, and together, we're going to make relationships make sense. Let's dive in. Let's talk about what it feels like to be on the receiving end of reactivity. You're standing there, you barely said a sentence, and suddenly it's like a bomb goes off. Your partner's voice gets sharp, their eyes go cold, or they shut down completely, leaving you there frozen, stunned, and unsure what the hell just happened. You're thinking, wait, did I say something wrong? Should I have phrased it differently? Was that my fault? Do I even bring things up anymore? And you find yourself shrinking, walking on eggshells, editing your tone, avoiding anything that might set them off. Because every time it happens, you feel like you're the one who ends up shattered. And still you love them. You know they're not cruel. You see how hard they're trying. You even get why they react sometimes. But loving someone doesn't mean you stop needing safety. And when their reactivity becomes the loudest thing in the room, your voice disappears. A quick note before we really dive in. What we're talking about today is emotional reactivity inside relationships that are imperfect but loving. Relationships where both people want to do better. This episode is not about abuse. If your partner consistently belittles you, uses fear or threats to control you, or refuses to take responsibility for how they hurt you, please know that's a different conversation. You deserve safety without question. And if any part of you is unsure whether what you're experiencing is normal or healthy, I encourage you to reach out to a therapist or trusted professional. There is no shame in asking that question. This episode is for the people in relationships that get emotionally messy, maybe even explosive, but underneath it, both partners still want to connect. So if you're the one who ends up blinking through tears, second-guessing your needs, or holding everything in just to keep the peace, this episode is for you. Because you shouldn't have to choose between loving your partner and feeling emotionally safe. You can have both, and we're going to talk about how. There's a kind of emotional whiplash that comes from being on the receiving end of someone's reactivity, especially when you didn't see it coming. One moment, you're just talking, maybe even calmly, and the next, your partner is angry, defended, hurt, cold, shut down, exploding, and you're just standing there, heart racing, eyes wide, unsure whether you just triggered something or walked into something that was already brewing. It's disorienting because it's not just what they said, it's how fast it flipped. It's the tone, the energy shift, the sudden wave of intensity or withdrawal. You start scanning. What did I miss? Did I phrase that wrong? Are they really mad at me, or did I just hit a nerve? Do I respond, or do I wait it out? It messes with your nervous system. You freeze, or you fawn, or you start trying to fix something that wasn't even yours to carry. And the longer it goes on, the more confused you feel because you know your partner is a good person. You know they're not trying to hurt you. You've seen their heart. You've been through things together. You want to be able to weather the hard stuff. But when their reactivity keeps taking over the room, When your voice, your intention, your pain gets buried under their reaction, you start to feel like you're losing yourself. You begin to avoid, edit, and minimize. And you start telling yourself that you'll pick a better moment, that they're under a lot of stress, and you'll just let it go. But here's the thing. Sometimes it is smart to pick your battles. Sometimes softening helps. But when it becomes a habit, when your partner's reactivity starts dictating what you can and can't say, you're not just keeping the peace. You're absorbing the cost. And absorbing it long term will wreck your nervous system, your voice, and your ability to trust your own perspective. So if you've ever felt like you're walking on emotional eggshells, if you've ever found yourself managing your partner's emotions more than your own, that's not you being too sensitive. That's your nervous system responding to inconsistency and emotional overwhelm. It's not weakness. It's a signal, and you are allowed to listen to it. Here's what no one tells you about being in a relationship where reactivity rules the room. You don't break all at once. You break slowly, tiny fracture by tiny fracture. It starts with small things. You skip topics you used to bring up. You reword your sentences mid-conversation. You wait for a better mood that may never come. And then you start telling yourself that it's just not worth it and that you'll just wait it out. And you're probably being too sensitive anyway. But underneath that logic is something else. You're managing, you're containing, and you are shrinking because part of you has learned that it's safer to make yourself small than to risk yet another emotional blow-up. Over time, you lose track of what you were even trying to say in the first place. You stop trusting your gut. You stop naming your needs. You stop bringing your full self into the relationship. And that's where the grief sets in. Because now, you're not just confused. It's that you feel alone, even when they're sitting right next to you. I've worked with so many clients who come in saying, "We love each other. I know that, but I don't feel like myself anymore. I really miss the version of me that used to speak up. I've begun to feel invisible." And that feeling, it doesn't just show up one day. It happens from months or maybe years of minimizing your needs to avoid the fallout. And here's the part that's hardest to admit. Sometimes the partner on the receiving end of reactivity becomes the one who looks calm and regulated on the outside. But inside, they're emotionally starving. They look like the strong one, the steady one, the one that doesn't get upset. But they're also the one losing access to their own emotional truth. Because the cost of keeping things steady on the surface is that everything underneath gets buried. And buried feelings don't just disappear. They show up as burnout, as resentment, as anxiety, detachment, as a kind of hollow loneliness that no amount of problem solving can actually fix. If that's you, if you've become the emotional shock absorber in your relationship, I really want you to hear this. That is not your role. You are not here to absorb everything so your partner doesn't have to deal with their own emotional work. Your nervous system deserves protection too. I see this dynamic in my clients all the time. I just want to let you know that it's not just my clients. Like, this is me. This is my husband too. We go through this. Even though I've been doing this work for over a decade, we are still human and we fall into this pattern as well. In fact, it happened around the time of the birth of our son. And while my husband is not the blow up and get loud kind of guy, he is the shut down kind of guy. I started to feel really alone. I noticed myself managing. I would get up early. I would stay up late. I wouldn't wake him in the middle of the night to help me with the baby because I wanted him to get enough sleep. These are the things that we start to do when we're trying to manage our partner's reactions instead of being vulnerable with them and sharing about how alone we feel, about how we need to be seen and not invisible and supported. So if this episode really feels like it has you sitting there with a lump in your throat, if you've been nodding along, feeling seen by the words that I'm saying, and maybe even feeling a little scared to admit how much this hits you, then let's pause for a second. Take a breath. And let me tell you something you might not have heard in a long time. You don't have to keep living this way. You don't have to walk on eggshells. You don't have to keep your voice in your throat. You don't have to disappear in order to love someone. You are allowed to want emotional safety and connection. You don't have to choose. You can be the kind of partner who holds space and holds boundaries. You can be loving and firm. You can care deeply without abandoning yourself in the process. Because emotional safety isn't selfish. It's foundational. It's what makes closeness even possible. It's what allows you to stay soft in the moments that used to make you go hard or go numb or go silent. And no matter how long you've been caught in this pattern, whether it's been months or decades, you can start to shift. Not by blowing it all up, not by trying to change your partner overnight, of course, but by learning how to stay connected to yourself, even when their reaction tries to pull you off center. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Because once I started talking to my husband about how alone I was feeling, it really changed everything. You see, in these moments that he would pull away, that was louder to me than any angry explosion. Because of my own stuff, that caused me to feel the least safe. And all I was trying to do in taking care of everything that I could and trying to manage for him was wanting to find connection again. And what it took was me opening up and being vulnerable about what was happening for him to start to come towards me. So we're going to talk about what actually happens in your body in these moments, why you freeze or fawn or shut down, and how to start reclaiming your voice without escalating the cycle. What's happening is survival. Your nervous system is scanning for danger, maybe even faster than you realize. It hears the sharpness in their voice. It sees the micro shift in their expression. It picks up on the energy rising, the tension in the room. And then it goes, this is not safe. Let's freeze, fawn, keep the peace. Let's just make it stop. So you shut down. Maybe you go still. You nod, you agree, even when you don't. Or maybe you do the opposite. Maybe you snap because you've been holding it together for so long that the dam finally breaks. And it's not calm, it's rage. I can't do it anymore. You never listen to me. Why is it always about you? And then comes the shame. Because now you're the one who looks reactive. Now you feel like you've become what you were trying to avoid. And let's be clear, that's not dysfunction. That's a trauma response. When you've been absorbing someone else's reactivity over and over, your system has to find some way to survive it. And those responses, the freezing, fawning, lashing out, are brilliant. They're adaptive. They don't make you weak. They mean your body is trying to protect you the best way it knows how. But over time, that protection becomes its own trap. You make things easier for them so often that you forget what ease actually feels like for you. You suppress your reactions for so long that when they finally come out, they scare you. This is the reactive cycle from the other side. And unless it gets named and understood, it turns into resentment, disconnection, and a deep relational loneliness. But here's the good news. When you can name what your body is doing without shame, you can start to intervene. You can catch the freeze before you shut down. You can catch the fawn before you abandon your truth. You can start choosing responses that protect your connection and your dignity. You just need the right tools and a new story about what your nervous system is trying to do. So how do you actually do it? How do you stay grounded when your partner is flooding with emotion? How do you hold on to your voice when everything in you wants to shut down? How do you stop absorbing their intensity, their blame, and the spiral? Here are 5 strategies I teach all the time. They're simple and powerful and doable even in the middle of a tough moment. Here's the first one. Anchor into your body first. Before you say a word, feel your feet. Push them into the ground. Wiggle your toes. Unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders drop. You can't speak clearly when your body thinks you're under attack. So the first step is safety from within. 1 deep breath. 1 exhale with sound. 1 hand over your chest. I'm here. I'm not the threat. I'm safe. Number 2, don't answer the tone, respond to the moment. When someone comes at you hot, your instinct might be to match their energy or to completely shut down. Instead, respond to what's true, not how it was delivered. I want to talk about this, but the way it just came out made it hard for me to stay open. Let's pause for a second. You're not shaming them. You're not escalating. You're creating space for both of you to reset. Number 3, use a simple boundary and bridge statement. This is the magic formula. Name what's not okay and invite connection anyway. It's hard for me to stay present when I feel blamed. Can we slow it down so I can actually hear you? Or, I want to hear what you're trying to say, but I can't take it in when it comes at me that fast. Boundaries don't have to be walls. When done right, they're doorways to deeper connection. Number 4, stop explaining and start naming. When you're on the receiving end of reactivity, you might feel tempted to over-explain, justify, or keep the peace with logic. That's a trap. Instead, name what's happening emotionally. I can feel myself disappearing in this conversation. That tells me I need to slow down and ground before I keep going. Or, I notice I'm trying to fix your feelings instead of staying connected to my own. Let's take a second. Naming pulls you back into yourself and often invites your partner to do the same. And number 5, debrief the moment later. Don't bury it. You really have to circle back. After the conflict cools down, it's not okay to just skip the repair. You can say, when things got intense earlier, I noticed I started shrinking. That's a pattern for me. I want us to keep working on how we can handle those moments together. So, why does this really matter? Because rupture isn't the problem. Avoiding the rupture's impact is. Debriefing keeps resentment from building and reminds both of you, we're not just surviving these fights, we're actually trying to learn from them. These strategies aren't about being perfect. They're about staying present with yourself, even when your partner isn't. You are not responsible for calming their storm, but you do get to stay out of the eye of it. And when you do, you stop making yourself small, you stop absorbing what's not yours, and you start showing up as a partner with boundaries, clarity, and emotional self-respect. That's what builds real safety, really on both sides. So let's bring it back. If you're the partner who often ends up absorbing your partner's reactivity, if you've learned to go quiet, edit your needs, or walk on eggshells just to keep things from blowing up, I want you to know that coping strategy may have served you once, but it doesn't have to keep defining your whole relationship. You are allowed to speak up. You are allowed to slow things down. You are allowed to take care of your nervous system without waiting for your partner to get it first. Today, you've learned how your body responds to emotional threat, how easy it is to lose yourself trying to keep the peace, and how to start reclaiming space for your voice, your truth, and your boundaries. And now I want to leave you with this. The next time things get tense, pause. Don't rush to fix it. Don't rush to shut down. Don't rush to make yourself smaller. Instead, ask yourself one question. What would staying connected to myself look like right now? Maybe it's taking a breath before responding, or maybe it's saying, I need a minute. Maybe it's coming back later with, that landed really hard, and I want to unpack it, but not like that. This isn't about being perfect. It's about practicing presence, especially when it's hard. You don't have to go silent to be loving, and you don't have to be agreeable to be safe. And you don't have to carry the emotional load alone. You are allowed to want closeness and boundaries. You are allowed to ask for more without feeling like a burden. You are allowed to stay. You are doing such good work. I'm so proud of you for being here, and I'll see you next time. If you've been nodding along during this episode thinking, this is exactly what happens in my relationship, but I don't know how to stop it, I made something for you. It's a free 7-day email course called Break the Cycle. Each day, I'll walk you through simple steps to stop the same fight from repeating and start rebuilding real connection without shutting down, walking on eggshells, or trying to do it all perfectly. You can sign up at my website. I'll link it in the show notes. It's totally free. This isn't just about communication. It's about breaking patterns that are breaking you. That's it for today's episode of Coupled With. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to hit subscribe so you never miss what's next. And if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review. It really helps more than you know. And if you're curious about how we might work together or want more resources to strengthen your relationship, head over to my website, www.drrachelorlick.com. You'll find free tools, podcast extras, and ways to go deeper. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.